Good morning, fellow pilgrims. Friends and neighbors, welcome to our daily devotional from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Pastor Warren. Very glad to welcome you to this short devotional. We are reading from Acts chapter 2, reading about the very early church. And in this chapter, Peter is preaching a sermon to the people of Jerusalem. And we've been talking a lot about being able to see signs and wonders from God. And today we're going to reflect on the gospel story, the story of Jesus' resurrection, and how we respond to that sign and that wonder. So we're looking very closely at one verse from Acts chapter 2, verse 37. And I'm reading from the Revised Standard Version, Acts chapter 2, verse 37. Now when they heard this, they were cut to the heart, and said to Peter and the rest of the apostles, Brethren, what shall we do? So Peter has finished his sermon, and when he finishes his sermon, we read that the people of Jerusalem respond with, it looks like some guilt. They're cut to the heart. The story touches them. And so they respond to Peter by saying, what shall we do? What can we do about this? So there are two things I would like for us to think about this morning. Two parts of this verse. One is the fact that the listeners were cut to the heart, and two, that they respond by asking, what shall we do? So number one, I think is really about, has a lot to do with guilt. Peter has just explained to them how they have treated the chosen one of God, the Messiah, as a criminal and had him crucified using the Roman authorities. And the story of Jesus as one who is innocent and is from God, and who dies and is raised from the dead, this story is one that is very powerful. Stories play an extremely powerful role in our lives, as you know, all sorts of stories. But this story is peculiar because it does tend to create or make us aware of guilt in our own lives and feelings of guilt, because we recognize in Jesus, here is someone who has laid his life down for other people. And that's a very, very powerful thought. The idea that someone would sacrifice themselves for you and for us, very powerful. When you add to that this one who has given his life for other people, when you add to that they are the chosen one of God, one who is pure and innocent, the story takes on a very overwhelming sort of character, because now you have a combination of purity and innocence with this idea of sacrificing for others. So it isn't just the innocence of a child with just naivete, just a naive child who is innocent. It is purity and innocence combined with a willingness to lay down his life for other people. So it's a very, very powerful story, and it creates and makes us aware of guilt. Now, guilt is a really tricky thing in our lives, and we don't have time this morning to go into all of the ways in which it is tricky. And for many people, guilt can be a kind of a pit that they fall into, and sort of become in some ways attracted to that feeling of being guilty, and so it's a very dangerous sort of thing, but it's also very powerful. So there's good guilt and there's bad guilt, I suppose. And good guilt is the sort of guilt that makes you clearly aware of what you're responsible for. I mean, one common response to the story of Jesus is simply to look at it and say, "Wow, I don't live that way. I don't lay down my life for other people in that way," and so that can, of course, create some guilt in our lives. But the second part of the verse, "Brethren, what shall we do?" I think is the proper response. What do we do? How do we respond to this news, this gospel news, and this feeling that we have about our own guilt, and how to move on? I spoke in the Easter sermon about faith being a verb, and I do believe that is true. But it's a very peculiar sort of verb, because it's not, I don't think that faith, the faith response is any one single thing that someone can do. So it's not that sort of verb. It's a verb that involves the complete reorientation of your life. So it involves your whole life. So Peter's going to go on to explain to them to repent and be baptized, and we're going to talk about those tonight in the Bible study and tomorrow morning. But it is a verb. The response that's needed is a verb. But we have to be careful when we say, "What shall we do?" It's not a single action. It's an action that has to do with the whole of one's life, the response of the whole life, not simply one thing that we can do. Now, there are things that we can do that express that, and we're going to talk about that with the role of baptism. But what shall we do can be tricky, because if you're looking for a single sort of response that'll take care of this issue, I think you'll be disappointed. It has to do, as I said, with the orientation of the whole life. And so join us tonight at 5:45 Pacific time, and we'll talk some more about that as we study this passage from Acts chapter 2. So let's close with a word of prayer. O God, our desperate desires have driven us at last to Thee, conscious now, after all vain effort, that it is Thyself alone that can satisfy, and now at peace to know that Thou it is who art desired, because Thou it is who does desire within us. Beyond our need, reveal Thyself, its cause and cure. In all desire, teach us to discern Thy drawing near. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us here on our daily devotional with Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn. Join us tonight for our Twilight Bible study at 5:45 p.m. And we'll be live on Zoom and YouTube and also Facebook. So I look forward to seeing you then. Have a very good day. Bye.